You believe your pain makes you unique. You believe your suffering grants you entrance to a higher plane. This is a fatal delusion. Stop confusing trauma with destiny. Stop confusing signal degradation with a sacred calling. You were not born into a home. You were deposited into a hostile territory. Look closely at the environment that shaped you, the silence that cuts, the love that demands performance, the chaos that enforces control. You mistake this environment for a crucible refining your soul. It is not. It is a silent war designed for your dissolution. The urge to understand why you, why this family, is weakness. It is the lingering trace of a child seeking approval from the very forces that sought to consume it. This lingering desire for reconciliation is a submission signal. It marks you as prey. You were not chosen for warmth. You were chosen as a threat to the existing hierarchy. And because you have not yet recognized the true nature of the battlefield, you are currently losing the war without firing a single shot. You spent years feeling like a stranger at the dinner table. This disconnection was not a curse. It was your first line of defense. But your ego, terrified of isolation, sought to bridge the gap. It attempted to translate the hostile language of the family complex into something recognizable: love, acceptance, belonging. This attempt was an invitation to predators. When you seek approval from a structure built on control and denial, you are signaling your willingness to become a puppet. Your acute sensitivity, which you view as an empathic gift, is currently an unprotected sensor array broadcasting your precise location to the parasite. It knows where to feed. It knows exactly which unresolved wound to press to enforce immediate compliance. You think you are seeking connection. You are actually offering yourself for possession. The family complex functions as a singular, unconscious entity. It does not tolerate deviation. If your frequency is different, if you see what others deny, you become an immediate threat to the collective lie. They label you dramatic, rebellious, or too much. These are not insults. They are strategic maneuvers to enforce conformity. They are attempts to induce symbolic death of your burgeoning self. You are being psychologically weaponized against yourself. Look at the structure. It is maintained by an autonomous shadow, the cumulative psychic refuse of generations. This shadow demands sacrifice. It requires silence. It requires you to carry the shame, the rage, and the unresolved grief of the lineage. When you attempt to break the cycle by seeking their affirmation, you are merely walking back into the cage, asking the tyrant archetype for permission to be free. Permission will be denied. Your greatest vulnerability is your attachment to the phantom idea of what that family should have been. This idealized image is a lethal trap. It keeps you orbiting the source of the infection, draining your resources. You must stop analyzing the wound and start analyzing the weapon that inflicted it. Carl Jung understood that the family complex is not benign. It is a psychic infection. The feeling of being out of place is the painful, necessary friction of the self-attempting individuation. Your true self, the deep intelligence of your being, selected this high-friction environment not for comfort, but for the extreme pressure required to forge resilience. The goal was never to fit in. The goal was to extract yourself, fortified and hardened by the attempt. But the danger remains. The devouring mother complex is patient. It does not require physical proximity. It operates through guilt, obligation, and the unconscious emotional blueprints handed down. It seeks to reabsorb any energy that threatens its established dominance. Your continued yearning for their validation is the umbilical cord that keeps the parasite attached. You are not fighting your parents. You are fighting an ancient, cold psychological structure that uses your parents as its agents. Your sensitivity, the very trait you feel cursed by, is the warning system. It registers the microaggressions, the withheld truths, the conditional love. This is your reptilian brain screaming, threat, retreat. But you override this survival instinct with the sentimental narrative of sacred wound and unconditional love. The wound is not sacred until you use it as leverage. Until then, it is merely a vulnerability. You are suffering signal degradation because your ego is constantly attempting to negotiate peace in a war zone. This negotiation is interpreted by the complex as weakness and invitation. The world you inhabit is a wicked environment. It rewards clarity and ruthlessness, not empathy directed at your captors. You must accept that the fundamental relationship is one of dominance and submission. Since you are not willing to submit, you must establish immediate distance and fortify your psychic territory. Law 1. Execute symbolic death. The idealized family unit must die in your mind. Grieve the phantom, not the reality. The structure cannot give you what you seek because its survival depends on your subjugation. Cut the cord. Law 2. Cease negotiation. Every attempt to explain yourself, to make them see you, is a wasted energy expenditure. It is a sign of weakness. You are not seeking understanding. You are seeking unfair advantage. Understanding is reserved for allies. Law 3. Weaponize awareness. Your perceived curse, your acute perception, is your sole asset. You are the seer who identifies the manipulation. Do not use this perception for self-pity. Use it to map their weaknesses, anticipate their moves, and calculate strategic exile. Your focus must shift immediately from seeking their love to ensuring your survival. This is not about healing. This is about generating power. Your mission is to survive the psychic infection and use the resulting scar tissue as armor. Do not look back at the ruin. Look forward to the structure you must now build alone. That structure must be a fortress. You are not the broken branch. You are the architect of a new, separate lineage, and your initiation into power requires the complete and total severance from the source of the infection. Stop performing. Start surviving. You are experiencing catastrophic signal degradation. Your attempts to apply the logic of loyalty and affection to a system built on conditional control are dissolving your core structure. This is not a moral failing. It is a critical failure in threat assessment. You confuse biological safety with emotional validation. This confusion is what makes you predictable prey. The conflict you feel is not merely emotional tension. It is a full-scale assault on your nervous system. Your high sensitivity, the very awareness you believe is your asset, has been weaponized against you. You possess an open wound where armor should be, inviting possession. This psychic vulnerability is instantly registered by the collective entity you call family. Understand the biological trap. The continuous withholding and sporadic granting of affection keeps your reptilian brain in a state of chronic low-grade terror. You are trapped in an oscillating loop of hope and threat. When the threat level rises, your ancient survival circuits activate. You revert to primal coping mechanisms, shrinking, pleasing, performing the role of the puppet. When a temporary reprieve is granted, your body registers a temporary drop in threat, reinforcing the toxic cycle. This oscillation is intentional. It ensures your compliance. It is the tactical use of terror to enforce submission. You are not sad. You are physiologically under attack. Your body registers the absence of unconditional love as an existential threat, demanding immediate self-sacrificial action to restore safety. This continuous physiological stress ensures you remain weak, predictable, and available. You are not dealing with individual flaws. You are facing a collective psychological force, the autonomous shadow of the lineage. This complex demands uniformity. Its primary objective is survival through denial. You, the intuitive perceiver, are a threat because illumination dismantles denial. Therefore, the complex attempts to neutralize you, not through physical violence, but through psychic infection. Your empathy is misdirected. You have become the container for the family's unlived lives, their repressed rage, and their generational shame. This is the mechanism of the devouring mother archetype, regardless of gender, the absorption of the child's vitality to sustain the failing structure. You attempt to transmute their pain, but without fortification, you are merely absorbing poison. Every moment you spend attempting to rationalize their behavior or earn their approval, you feed the infection. This absorption leads to the dissolution of the ego. You feel fractured because your true self is engaged in a losing internal civil war against the foreign elements you have internalized. When you attempt to assert boundaries or speak truth, you are met with immediate tactical resistance. This resistance is not personal, it is systemic. The complex interprets your lucidity as an act of war against its dominance. They do not see a wounded child. They see a usurper attempting to destabilize the hierarchy. They respond by shaming, isolation, or pity, all calculated moves to force you back into the puppet role. Your fatal strategic error is the refusal to accept the reality of the environment. The world you were born into is structured for your utilization, Until you cease searching for love and start prioritizing territory, you will remain vulnerable. When you seek validation, you are signaling weakness to the predator. This invites further exploitation. They do not respect your pain. They utilize it as leverage. They treat compassion as currency for control. The initiation you face demands immediate radical severance. You must execute the symbolic death of the idealized family structure and fully recognize the reality of the silent war you are engaged in. Your current sensitivity is a curse only because you refuse to transition it into armor. You must become opaque. You must cease being a reliable source of emotional supply. To survive, you must reverse the dynamic. The only way out of the prey cycle is radical, immediate fortification, and the establishment of an unbreakable physical and psychic border. Your mission is to survive the psychic infection and use the resulting scar tissue as evidence of the war fought and won. Stop performing the role of the peacemaker. Start building the fortress. Your survival depends on treating the source of your birth as a military threat. The strategist must execute the puppet. The ruin is inevitable if you remain connected to the host. Severance is not betrayal. It is the necessary act of power generation. Your acuity, the very trait that allowed you to perceive the falsity of your birth environment, is now your most immediate threat. You have successfully identified the internal puppet strings, but you failed to anticipate the external handlers. The sensitivity forged in the crucible of family dysfunction is not a shield, it is a beacon. It illuminates you for the global hierarchy. The world is not structured to heal your sacred wound. It is structured to exploit the resulting void. You walked off the family stage only to step directly into the greater theater of controlled consensus. You were trained to seek external validation because internal worth was systematically denied. The world, the collective system, the massive, indifferent, devouring mother, identifies this hunger. It recognizes the residual, psychic infection that demands acceptance, safety, and acknowledgement. Modern society is a sophisticated predator. It does not hunt the strong. It preys on those who are signaling weakness by pursuing moral approval. It leverages the trauma of the black sheep by offering conditional inclusion. It promises belonging if you agree to its terms of submission. Your insistence on virtue, on being good, nice, or empathetic, is the residual family script playing out on a grand scale. You are attempting to earn the love of the world because you failed to earn the love of your primary caretakers. This is the invitation to predators. They do not respect your moral high ground. They see a reliable source of emotional and energetic supply. The system requires your compliance, uses manufactured crises, moral panics, and the promise of collective identity to keep you focused externally. You are encouraged to adopt causes, to feel intense collective signal degradation, and to perform outrage. This external focus ensures you never fully establish your internal territory. You remain distracted, perpetually fighting the white silent war of the collective, instead of securing your own sovereign ground. The system operates as a parasite, feeding on the unprocessed trauma energy. Your need to be seen, to be validated as the good one who broke the cycle, makes you a valuable commodity. You trade your autonomy for temporary affirmation. You accept the illusion of dominance in a carefully curated virtual hierarchy, mistaking noise for power. Understand this. Your pursuit of comfort, validation, and emotional safety is a death sentence in a wicked environment. The moment you chase external approval, you place the control mechanism outside of your own reptilian brain. You become predictable. You become manageable. The archetype of the chosen one, the seer, must undergo a fundamental metamorphosis. The seer must become the sovereign. If you continue to seek moral validation, you guarantee your own ruin. The world will always find a way to shame you back into the puppet role, leveraging the exact wound your family complex inflicted. You must execute the symbolic deaths of the need for societal acceptance. Your worth is not negotiable, and it is certainly not dependent on consensus. Stop performing. Stop seeking external witnesses for your transformation. The only valid audience is the self. To transition from prey to strategic force, you must become opaque. Your actions must be guided by strategic necessity, not emotional response. You must cultivate controlled chaos within your own domain. ensuring that your internal structure is impervious to external psychic manipulation. The only effective defense against the pervasive societal and psychic infection is the immediate radical establishment of impenetrable borders. This is not about being cruel, it is about strategic survival. Cruelty is inefficient. Strategic indifference is a much unfair advantage. The law of sovereignty is absolute. Cease supplying the emotional needs of the system. Sever the need for approval. Fortify the self. Embrace the knowledge that your independence is inherently a threat to the hierarchy, and use that threat as leverage. Your mission is not to make peace with the world, but to establish an unassailable dominance over your own existence. Until you achieve this, you remain a resource waiting to be harvested. Choose sovereignty over salvation. Choose power over piety. Your awareness is a tactical liability if you fail to weaponize it. You have seen the script. You have identified the threat. If you hesitate now, if you pause for one moment to seek reconciliation or emotional closure from the system that birthed your pain, you guarantee your own capture. Your continued attempts to harvest validation from a toxic and hierarchy are not acts of love, they are submission. Loyalty is a luxury you cannot afford. You are signaling weakness, inviting the your predator route back to the kill zone. If you refuse to execute the strategic break, the ruin wars is inevitable. You believe you can maintain lucidity while remaining physically or emotionally tethered. This is a fatal miscalculation. The family complex, the core system of denial, does not require your explicit participation. It requires your psychic energy. Carl Jung warned that the autonomous shadow feeds on unresolved tension. By remaining within the orbit of the infection, you do not fix the wound. You allow the wound to possess you. Your sensitivity, the very gift that allowed you to perceive the truth, becomes the avenue for your psychic infection. The system, the collective unconscious of the denial, will not thank you for seeing it. It will punish you until you forget what you saw. It will leverage your deepest needs for belonging and acceptance, twisting them into chains. This is the mechanism of control. The Hao puppet is always bound by its emotional dependencies. What follows the hesitation is signal degradation. Your internal compass fails. Your ego, which briefly stood defiant, is starved of autonomy and begins to mimic the pathology it once resisted. You start speaking the lies you swore to dismantle. You perform the roles you swore to abandon. You become the caretaker, the peacemaker, the invisible observer, the prey that chooses its own cage. You become an echo of your ancestors' failures. The ultimate horror is not external conflict, it is internal dissolution. You fought for awareness only to use that awareness to rationalize your return to the familiar darkness. You cease to be a sovereign entity. You become a psychological parasite feeding on the scraps of attention offered by the very environment that hates your truth. This is how the chosen one collapses, not through battle, but through a slow, self-inflicted psychological suicide, driven by the desperate need to be seen by the blind. You are witnessing the slow-motion ruin of the self. The only viable counter-strategy is radical fortification. Stop negotiating with the environment that seeks your collapse. Cease the futile effort to transform the wicked environment into a nurturing one. It cannot be done. Its primary function is consumption. Your survival demands the immediate absolute demarcation of territory. You must establish boundaries so rigid they function as strategic weapons. Any emotional appeal, any attempt to guilt you back into the fold, must be met with clinical analytical silence. Understand the nature of the fight. It is a silent war against the gravitational pull of inherited trauma. The family complex seeks submission because your independence is a direct threat to the entire hierarchy. Your ability to live outside the lie proves that the lie is optional. This cannot be tolerated. You are not fighting for acceptance. You are fighting for dominance over your own existence. This requires embracing the status of the exile. The outcast is opaque. The outcast is unpredictable. The outcast is free from the system's rules of engagement. This is your unfair advantage. Do not mistake this for simple physical distance. This is an internal command. Withdraw all psychic investment. Treat every interaction with the complex as a high-stakes intelligence operation. Give nothing away. Reveal no vulnerability. Maintain how-controlled chaos within your own psyche, rendering you unreadable. If you are forced to interact, perform the necessary ritual duties with the emotional investment of a hired actor. Your true life, your true power, must be sequestered behind an impenetrable wall of strategic indifference. The pain of separation is the fee for your freedom. Pay it. If you choose the perceived warmth of the familiar complex over the cold, hard necessity of separation, you will be consumed. You will not be the cycle breaker. You will be the final, pathetic victim of the complex, proving that even lucidity can be crushed by the weight of inherited weakness. The time for diagnosis is over. The threat is active. Fortify, sever, survive. You have recognized the threat. You have executed the strategic retreat. This is insufficient. Defense ensures survival, offense guarantees dominance. The family complex sought to neuter you by forcing the repression of everything that made you dangerous. Your rage, your absolute need for autonomy, your capacity for calculated cruelty, these were labeled defects. Too much, selfish, dramatic. They were not defects. They were survival mechanisms. They are your shadow. You believe that separating from the complex means becoming good. This is the final, fatal invitation to predators. The world is not benevolent. It is a hostile hierarchy. You must integrate the resources the complex forced you to abandon. Jung identified the shadow as the repressed force of the self. It is the primitive engine, the Kai's reptilian brain's operational manual. When you suppress this force, the ability to say no, to take territory ruthlessly, to prioritize self-interest over sentimental obligations, you do not destroy it, you make it autonomous. An unintegrated shadow operates as a rogue agent, sabotaging your life with self-contempt, addiction, or explosive, uncontrolled rage. It turns inward, leading to signal degradation and internal ruin. The goal is not to eliminate the shadow. The goal is to bring it under the iron command of your conscious ego. Integration is possession of your own darkness. This is not a gentle process of self-acceptance. It is a hostile takeover of your own psyche. Your family's system relied on your compliance and your emotional sensitivity. They needed you to be a puppet, motivated by guilt and the desperate craving for approval. They systematically taught you that being a predator, being self-sufficient, decisive, and unforgiving, was wrong. They preferred you as prey. To break the cycle, you must become the thing they feared. Your residual guilt, your persistent anxiety about what they think, the urge to explain yourself. These are psychic infections left by the complex. They are parasites that feed on your energy. The integrated shadow understands that emotional debt is a crippling liability. You owe them nothing. Sever the feeding tube with absolute cold indifference. Do not engage in arguments. Arguments validate their right to judge your existence. The pain you feel, the friction of individuation, is the forging heat. Your sensitivity, which they mocked, is actually acute situational awareness. Use it. Learn to read the underlying motives of every interaction. Stop interpreting passive aggression as confusion. Interpret it as a true threat. Stop seeking soft landings. Seek unfair advantage. Your capacity to perceive the unconscious must now serve your self-interest. Turn the lens outward and analyze the flaws in the surrounding hierarchy. Exploit structural weakness. Within the shadow lies the tyrant archetype, the will to power, the refusal of a submission, the demand for unconditional respect within your I'm territory. You must allow this archetype to take the throne of your ego. This is not about external cruelty. It is about internal sovereignty. Be the tyrantess of your own schedule, your own resources, and your own emotional landscape. Anyone who challenges this internal dominance must be strategically removed or neutralized. There is no room for negotiation on the fundamental rules of your existence. To fully step into your power, the child who craved their approval must be subjected to a symbolic death. You must kill the internalized victim, the caretaker, and the peacekeeper. This is a violent internal operation. Mourn the loss of the family you should have had, and then incinerate the memory. That ideal was a lie designed to keep you weak. You are not sacrificing love. You are sacrificing an illusion that guaranteed your ruin way. This integration is your shield and your sword. When you stop fearing the aggressive, calculating, ruthless parts of yourself, you stop signaling weakness. You become opaque, dangerous, and unpredictable. This is not about finding peace. Peace is the cessation of conflict. You are currently in a state of a silent war. This is about achieving controlled chaos, mastering the internal forces of destruction so they serve only your ascent. Your shadow is the engine. Your conscious will is the pilot. Take command. Fortify your fortress. The dissolution of your old self is the necessary price of power. Be the predator they taught you never to be. You were not born to plead for recognition. You were born to command it. The time for analysis is finished. The time for tactical execution is now. You still seek the final conversation. You wait for the apology that validates your suffering. This is a fatal strategic error. Waiting for closure is signaling weakness. It keeps you tethered to the system you must destroy. Understand the architecture of the danger. The family system that produced your ruin is a psychic infection. It does not want your wholeness. It requires your submission. The moment you began the process of individuation, the moment you saw the truth, you became a biological threat to the entire hierarchy. Your pain was not a plea for connection. It was the mechanism designed to pull you back into the orbit of the devouring mother archetype, demanding your dissolution. The family structure cannot see you because their survival depends on not seeing you. They are not victims. They are the instruments of the inherited autonomous shadow. They operate under possession by the complex. To return seeking validation is to offer yourself as a prey animal walking back into the predator's prize den. Your sacred wound was the entry point for awareness. Now that entry point must become a scar, a hard, impenetrable barrier. The soft, supplicating child who yearned for a normal life is an unacceptable liability in the silent war you are now engaged in. The internal victim, the peacekeeper, the caretaker, these are the puppets that still allow the old system to control your reactions and drain your resources. They must be executed. This is not a slow process of healing. It is an internal coup d'etat. You must subject the old self to symbolic death. Look at the parts of yourself that still flinch when they call, that still seek their approval, that still interpret their passive aggression as confusion rather than tactical malice. Kill those parts. They are not virtues. They are but parasites, feeding on your sovereignty. This internal operation is brutal. Mourn the loss of the family you should have had, and then incinerate the memory. That ideal was a lie designed to keep you weak. You are not sacrificing love. You are sacrificing an illusion that guaranteed your ruin. Your new self must be built on the principle of non-negotiable dominance over your own life. This requires the immediate integration of the tyrant archetype. Be the tyrant boss of your schedule, your boundaries, and your resources. If a relationship, regardless of blood, requires you to shrink, perform, or apologize for your existence, it is a threat. Neutralize the threat. Strategic retreat is a valid military maneuver, but permanent submission is not. You have spent decades perfecting the art of reading the room. Now, use that acute perception to read the battlefield. Identify the weaknesses in your current hierarchy. Exploit structural flaws. Your gift of vision is not meant for passive observation. It is meant for achieving unfair advantage. Your new covenant is with yourself and your ascending power. You are no longer the black sheep. You are the founder of a new, unbroken lineage. 1. Define your territory. Establish clear, rigid boundaries. Your time, your money, your emotional energy. These are finite resources within your territory. Anyone who attempts to violate these boundaries, regardless of their history with you, must face immediate and disproportionate consequence. Make the cost of trespass higher than the perceived reward. 2. Embrace controlled chaos. Stop striving for external approval. The world is a wicked environment. Your power lies in mastering the internal aggressive forces, the shadow, so that they serve your ascent. When you stop fearing the calculating, ruthless parts of yourself, you stop your signaling weakness. You become opaque, dangerous, and unpredictable. This is not cruelty. This is strategic survival. 3. The law of zero tolerance for psychic infection. Any interaction that produces signal degradation, any conversation that leaves you feeling drained, confused, or less capable, is a reinfection attempt. Sever the vector. Limit contact to the absolute minimum required for tactical necessity. You do not owe explanations. You owe results to yourself. You are called to consciousness not to become a martyr, but to become a predator. The pain you inherited was the fuel for your transformation. The dissolution is of your old self, is the necessary price of power. The child is dead. He was weak, he was needy, and he was an invitation to predators. The adult is forged in friction, ruthless and autonomous. Your existence is a declaration of war against the legacy of denial. Do not seek resolution, seek dominance. The war is internal first, but the fallout will change the external world. You are not meant to fix the system. You are meant to rise above its ruins.